The NBA draft is one of the most exciting times of the year for basketball fans. It's the ultimate representation of hope. If your team makes the correct pick, it can set itself up for years of success. If you blow it, well, there's always next year. Today, I'm going through the last 77 years of NBA drafts to rank every 9th pick in draft history. There are a few caveats before jumping in. One, this is only ranking a pro player's career. I don't care about how good they were in college, but I will consider if they played overseas or for a non-NBA domestic league. And two, we don't have much data on some of the more recent players, but I will still rank them. Just don't be surprised if some of those guys shoot up the rankings in the next few years. Finally, in the early years of the NBA, there was a rule where teams could select territorial players, throwing off the draft order number slightly. I'm going with what Basketball Reference has listed, so take it up with them if you have any issues with where I slot those territorial players in. Oh, and please feel free to sound off in the comments if you have any major issues with the list. The banter is always fun. Let's get into it. Number 78, Paul Robitaille. First off, apologies if I mispronounced that. I tried to find a good source on YouTube, but it's pretty tough. The 6'9" Robitaille started at Rice, before the Pistons selected him 9th overall in the '59 draft. He's one of 4 players who never played in the NBA, instead spending 3 seasons playing for the Philadelphia 66ers in the NIBL. He also participated in a 6-game series against the Soviet Union in '59. 77, Chuck Hanger. Hanger decided to play in the AAU instead of pursuing pro ball. He played for the Oakland Bittners and the Oakland Blue and Gold Atlas from '48 to '52. He won an AAU title with future NBA All-Star Don Barksdale and made 2 All-AAU squads during that time. 76, Chuck Darling. The 6'8" Darling also played AAU ball, making the All-AAU team from '54 to '56. He also played on the Olympic team in '56, winning gold alongside Bill Russell and K.C. Jones, though Darling was mostly a bench warmer. 75, Bill Green. While Green never played pro ball, his story is a little different than the other 3 guys, so I'm ranking him slightly higher. The guy was drafted by the Celtics in the NBA, the Red Sox in the MLB, and the Cowboys in the NFL in 1963. Or at least that's what a Sports Illustrated article from 1986 claims. I actually didn't find a ton of evidence that he was drafted in the other leagues outside of that one article. Either way, he'd never play any of those sports professionally because of his incredible fear of flying. He quit the Celtics a few days before the regular season tipped off and took up teaching in New York City. That said, if someone is really skilled enough to be drafted in 3 sports, I have to give him a slight leg up on the other 3 guys. 74, Gene Short. Short spent a year in the NBA, playing 27 games for the Knicks and 7 games for the Supersonics. That trade was probably the most notable moment of his career, as it brought Spencer Haywood to New York. Otherwise, Short averaged 2.5 points and 1.4 rebounds during his lone NBA season. That said, it is worth noting that his younger brother Purvis Short had a long, successful NBA career. 73, Dick Duckett. Duckett also played a single year of NBA ball, averaging 3.9 points and 1.6 rebounds for the Royals. After that, he did spend a few years in the Eastern Professional Basketball League, but his career is very forgettable. 72, Jim Fritsche. Over 2 seasons, Fritsche played in 84 total games across 3 teams. The 6'8" forward averaged 3.9 points and 3 boards before leaving the game. 71, Jim Arnette. Arnette played all 3 years of his NBA career in Cincinnati, averaging 3.8 points and 1.2 assists. He also won an Olympic gold medal in 1962 before joining the NBA. While playing, he earned his chemistry degree and would switch careers after leaving the game in '66. 70, Patrick O'Brien. Notorious POB stuck in the league for 4 seasons across 3 different teams, but he never played in more than 39 games during a season. He averaged 2.1 points and 1.3 rebounds before leaving the NBA and spending the next decade playing overseas. He did play well in Taiwan, but outside of that, he struggled to stay on a squad due to his poor play. 69, Nate Bowman. I might be slightly underrating the Snake because he did play for 6 seasons across 4 different teams. However, he's 6'10" and only averaged 3.4 rebounds and 2.9 points across his career. To be fair, Bowman was on the Knicks roster when they won the 1970 NBA title, but he only played about 7 minutes off the bench during the playoffs. 68, Ed O'Bannon. To be fair to O'Bannon, he'd already had a nasty knee injury in college, though he was able to come back and win a national title with UCLA. That said, his knee continued to deteriorate during his 2-year NBA career. He averaged 5 points and 2.5 rebounds, but consistently struggled with confidence and form. O'Bannon did play overseas for several seasons, but never spent longer than 1 year with any organization. 67, George Johnson. Johnson spent 4 years in the NBA, though he only played in more than 26 games during one season, which was his only year in the ABA. Over his career, he averaged 3.7 points and 5 rebounds, but outside of his lone ABA season, Johnson had a mostly lackluster career. 66, Larry Demic. Demic had a solid start to his career, averaging 7 points and 6 boards while starting 51 games. However, he lost his starter role to Sly Williams in year 2 and fell off over the next 2 years. Demic averaged 4.7 points and 3.9 boards across his 3 seasons in the NBA. He played for 3 years overseas before hanging him up. 65, Steve Hamilton. Hamilton is tough to rank because his brief NBA career saw him average 4.5 points and 3.4 rebounds over 2 seasons. However, he also pitched in the MLB for about a decade. There, he went 40-31 with 531 strikeouts and a 3.05 ERA. 64, Bob Nash. Nash played for 3 years in the NBA, left to play in the CBA for 2 years, and then came back to the NBA for 2 final seasons. During his NBA career, he averaged 4.7 points and 2.3 rebounds before starting up a long coaching career. 63, Bob Burrow. Tech spent 2 seasons in the NBA, averaging 5.7 points and 4 rebounds. His first year was spent in Rochester, but he moved to the Minneapolis Lakers for his final season. 62, Dick O'Keefe. O'Keefe played his entire 4-year career in Washington, averaging 5.2 points and 2.2 rebounds. After those 4 seasons, the team folded, and O'Keefe didn't sign with another franchise. 61, Taylor Hendricks. Hendricks is only 2 years into his NBA career, so he could move up the list quite a bit. That said, he missed half of his rookie season and only played in 3 games during year 2 before breaking his fibula, so he's firmly on the wait-and-see track. 60, Mike Sweetney. Sweets played 4 seasons between the Knicks and Bulls. During his second and third years, he was relatively solid, averaging about 8 points and 5 rebounds a night. However, he continually struggled with weight, which eventually played a part in him being out of the league after 4 years. Sweetney spent the next several seasons playing overseas before getting into coaching at the high school level. 59, Zach Edey. Like Hendricks, Edey is very tough to rank. As of this writing, he's averaging 10.3 points and 7.5 rebounds during his rookie season and has a legitimate chance to win Rookie of the Year. If that happens, he'll immediately shoot up the list, but for now, I'm keeping his rating relatively conservative. 58, Jack Stevens. Speaking of players who only have 1 season of NBA ball in the books, Stevens played 1 solid year for the Hawks and walked away. He averaged 10.3 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 2.9 assists that season before hanging him up. 57, Ed Califat. Big Ed spent 3 years in the NBA, all with the Lakers. He averaged 7.1 points and 5.7 rebounds, and his stats improved each season he was in the league as he got more playing time. Unfortunately, his short career keeps him from rising up the ranks. 56, Don Sunderledge. I know I've said this a few times, but I really don't know what to do with Sunderledge. He only played in 2 seasons, and his second season was downright bad. However, during his first season, Sunderland averaged 11.2 points, 3.3 rebounds, and 2.8 assists to make the All-Star team. I'll slot him in here, but I can't say I'm happy about having someone who made an All-Star team this low. 55, Stan Love. Love played for 4 teams across his 4 seasons in the NBA, averaging 6.6 points and 3.9 rebounds during his career. He was a relatively solid bench player, but is better known for being the younger brother of Beach Boys singer Mike Love and father to future NBA All-Star Kevin Love. 54. Noah Vonleh. Vonleh did play for 8 seasons in the NBA, but his career was largely forgettable. At his best, Vonleh averaged 8.4 points and 7.8 rebounds for the 2019 Knicks, who won all of 19 games. Nothing against the guy, but somebody had to get stats on that team. Otherwise, he never averaged more than 5 points and never had a positive box plus minus. Because of that, he simply can't go any higher, despite the longevity. 53. Rodney White. White almost immediately had a falling out with head coach Rick Carlisle and only played in 16 games in Detroit. He was then traded to Denver ahead of the 2003 season and was solid during his 2.5 years there, averaging 7.7 points and 2.4 boards. However, he was traded to Golden State in 2005 and was out of the NBA after the season. To his credit, White kept playing overseas and won the scoring title in the Chinese Basketball Association. 52. Joel Przybilla. The Vanilla Gorilla is another player that is tough to place. Sure, he played for 13 seasons, but he never averaged more than 6.4 points a night. The 7-footer was a solid rebounder and got a smattering of votes for DPOY in 2005 and 2009. It's just tough to rank a guy who averaged 3.9 points for his career much higher. 51. Eric Montross. Things started well for Montross, averaging 10 points and 7.3 rebounds to make the all-rookie second team. Unfortunately, injuries and consistent shuffling between different teams kept the big man from ever improving on those numbers. He did play for 8 seasons across 6 different teams, but was never able to turn the corner into a solid pro. Over his career, Montross averaged 4.5 points and 4.6 rebounds. 50. Tom Hammonds. Similar to Montross and Przybilla, Hambone played for 12 seasons, starting 60 total games. He averaged 5.3 points and 3.3 rebounds, which isn't a great rebounding number for a 6'9" power forward in the 90s. He did average 11.9 points in 92 with Washington, though he only played in 37 games that season, so the numbers are slightly skewed in his favor. After wrapping up his career, Hammonds got into drag racing and owns his own NHRA team. 49. Ike Diogu. Diogu played for 5 teams across his 6-year NBA career, with his best stretch coming during his early run with the Warriors when he dropped 7.1 points and 3.5 rebounds a night. His career numbers are slightly lower, but right around those marks. He then went on to win several awards in the D-League before jumping overseas and winning a few more individual awards in the Puerto Rico League in 2014. He played his last game in 2023 in Venezuela. 48. Brad Sellers. Sellers' career is kinda similar to Diogu in terms of stats and constantly jumping around the league. The 7-footer played for 6 seasons across 4 different teams, averaging 6.3 boards and 2.7 rebounds. Before Horace Grant made him expendable, he was a solid part-time starter with the Bulls, dropping 8.3 points a night. After leaving the NBA, Sellers spent nearly a decade playing overseas, winning 1 Greek League title. 47. Matt Guokas. We're back to the compilers. Guokas spent nearly 10 years in the NBA with 5 different teams. During his rookie season, he averaged 3 points a night for the title-winning 76ers. What can I say? It pays to ride the bench on a team that had Wilt Chamberlain, Hal Greer, Chet Walker, and Billy Cunningham. Guokas did drop 9.1 points and 5.1 assists with the Kings, but otherwise his career was pretty average at 5.8 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists. 46. Gary Phillips. Like Guokas, Phillips came off the bench for a title-winning team in 1962 as the Celtics picked up their 6th straight championship. Phillips was then sold to the Warriors, where he'd spend the last 4 years of his career. To his credit, Phillips did average double-digit points during his 3rd season, but his career averages of 6.7 points and 2.6 rebounds keep him from rising up the list. 45. Kevin Knox. As a rookie, Knox looked promising with 12.8 points and 4.5 boards a night. However, his minutes and numbers quickly dropped off over the next few seasons. He did put up decent numbers in Detroit and Portland over the last few years, but he's been playing in the G League as of 2025. At only 25 years old, he could very easily get back onto an NBA roster and become a solid player. 44. Davion Mitchell. Mitchell averaged 11.5 points and 4.2 assists as a rookie, but his numbers slowly fell off over his next 2 seasons in Sacramento. Ahead of the 24-25 season, Mitchell was traded to the Raptors, where his numbers have gone up slightly due to his increased minutes. The point guard is only 26 years old, so he could still turn a page and move up this list. 43. Samaki Walker. During Walker's 10-year career, he averaged 5.3 points and 4.7 rebounds. The 6'9" forward played for 6 teams across his career, including a 2-year run with the Lakers in the early 2000s, helping the team win a title in 2002. After spending 2006 in Indiana, Walker went overseas to play for another 6 years, winning 2 Syrian League championships in 2008 and 2011. 42. Armand Hill. Hill spent most of his 8 NBA seasons in Atlanta, where he averaged 7.6 points and 5.2 assists. Those numbers dropped off as he aged and moved to other teams, but the 6'4" point guard was generally a steady hand throughout his career. He did win a title, but as an assistant coach with the Celtics in 2008. 41. Bob Lavoie. Lavoie spent his first 3 seasons with the Olympians, proving himself a solid player with 9.1 points and 6.7 rebounds. The team folded after the 53 season, and Lavoie spent some time playing in Milwaukee and Syracuse, but his numbers fell off and he was out of the league after the season. 40. Wawa Jones. If Wawa had played longer, he might have flown up this list. The only player to have his number retired in both football and basketball at the University of Kentucky, was drafted in both sports but stuck with basketball. He played for 3 seasons with the Indianapolis Olympians, posting career averages of 10.2 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 3.1 assists. Before starting his NBA career, Jones also helped win an Olympic gold medal in 1948, but he was out of the league by 1952. 39. Tom Lagarde. I might be slightly overrating Lagarde because of his 80-81 season with the Mavericks. The 6'10" forward started every game that season and dropped 13.7 points and 8.1 rebounds. He also won a title with the Supersonics in '79, though he only averaged about 3 points a night during that playoff run. Otherwise, his 6 years in the NBA are largely forgettable. 38. Jeremy Sochan. Sochan has had a solid start to his NBA career. He made the all-rookie team with 11 points, 5.3 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. While the Spurs did try an experiment with him playing point guard during his second season to see how he fit in with Wemby, he has settled into a more natural role in year 3, and his numbers are up to 13.4 points and 8 rebounds a night. Sochan is another candidate to fly up this list over the next several years. 37. Willie Burton. When healthy, Burton was a solid bucket getter off the bench, averaging just over 10 points a night across his 8-year career. His most productive season came in '95 with the 76ers, when he averaged 15 points and 3 rebounds in nearly 30 minutes a night. However, Burton spent a season in Italy after that season, and when he came back to the NBA, he could never get to that same level of production. He was out of the NBA in '99 after playing 3 games for the Hornets. Burton then spent another 5 years playing overseas and in lower domestic leagues. 36. Rui Hachimura. Hachimura has proven to be a solid scorer during his 6-year NBA career, but injuries have kept him from ever starting more than 57 games in a season. Like many young guys on this list, he could move up the rankings if he continues to improve. In 2025, he's averaging about 12 points and 5 rebounds, playing solidly as the Lakers' 4th option on the court. 35. Frank Kaminsky. I'm going to be honest with you. On principle, I want to rank Frank the tank lower because no 7-footer should have a career average of 3.8 rebounds. That's just silly. I mean, look at Josh Hart. However, Kaminsky did have a few solid seasons as a backup big in Charlotte to start his career, and actually has a positive VORP rating, which you can't say about guys like Hachimura. That said, I don't think Rui and Sochan need to do much more to pass Kaminsky. 34. Ron Williams. Fritz's career is kinda similar to Kaminsky's. He started out well, dropping more than 14 points and 5 assists in year 2 and 3. However, when the team changed its name to Golden State, Williams' production started to fall off. He was still a solid bench guard for the Warriors, Bucks, and Lakers through the 76 season, but he was never able to take that next step towards stardom after those 2 very good seasons. I also have to give it up to him as a two-sport athlete, as the Cowboys picked him in the 14th round of the '68 draft. 33, Dennis Smith Jr. Smith averaged 15 points and 5 assists during his first year to finish 5th in voting for Rookie of the Year. Unfortunately, his production quickly dropped off after his second season as he struggled to stay healthy, playing in less than 40 games a year from 2020 to 2022. He brought his production back up to around 9-5 a night with Charlotte in 2003 before spending the 2004 season coming off the bench for the Nets. As of this writing, he's playing in the G League, but he's only 26, so he could return to an NBA roster and make an impact. 32, Tom McMillan. McMillan spent a year as a Rhodes Scholar in Oxford before joining Buffalo's roster. During that time, he also played a season in Italy. When he got to the league, the 6'11 center was solid, averaging 8.1 points and 4 rebounds over his 11-year career. He was never able to become an everyday starter, averaging just 25 minutes a night at his peak. The guy they called the Senator would nearly live up to that name after retiring, becoming a member of the U.S. House of Representatives in 1987. 31, Deni Avdija. Avdija has shown improvement during each of his first 5 NBA seasons. Of course, he's playing for very bad teams, but he did drop nearly 15 points and 7 boards in 2024. Those numbers have gone down slightly since he joined the Trailblazers, but it's still relatively early in the 2025 season. Do not be surprised if he jumps several spots over the next few years. 30, Dwight Jones. Before he was drafted by the Hawks, Jones was involved in some Olympic controversy. He was ejected from the 1972 gold medal game against the Soviet Union after a dust-up with an opposing player. It was later revealed that the Soviets had done it intentionally to take out the guy they viewed as the US's team leader. It worked, and the Soviets won gold, though there was some further controversy later in the game that we don't have to get into. When he got to the NBA, Jones quickly became a double-digit scorer for Atlanta. However, he still had to deal with several trades over the years, making it tougher to get into a groove. Still, the big man averaged 8.1 points and 5.7 rebounds across his 10-year career. He then played one last season in Italy before retiring in 1984. 29, Trey Burke. Burke finished in 3rd for Rookie of the Year voting, but please don't go look at who finished above him. Jokes aside, Burke made a career as a solid bench scorer, averaging nearly 10 points a night over his 9 years, while only playing around 20 minutes a game. Not star numbers, but he was a solid role player. 28, Mel Counts. Counts spent his first 2 seasons as Bill Russell's backup for 2 title-winning teams. In '67, Goose was traded to Baltimore for 25 games before joining the Lakers. He then spent 3.5 seasons in LA, averaging nearly 12 points and 9 rebounds alongside Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Gail Goodrich, and Wilt Chamberlain. In 1970, he was traded to the Phoenix Suns to bring Goodrich back to the Lakers after he left in '68. Counts continued to play well during his first year, but moved to the bench in '72, where he'd play for the next several years while making stops with the 76ers, Lakers again, and Jazz. He retired in 1976, averaging 8.3 points and 6 rebounds over his 12-year career. 27, Cliff Levingston. Levingston spent 11 years in the NBA, most notably with the Hawks during the mid-'80s. During that 6-year run, the big man averaged 8.9 points and 6.2 rebounds a game. In the early 90s, he joined the Bulls, giving solid minutes off the bench for 2 title-winning teams. Levingston then spent a few years overseas before joining the Nuggets for the '95 season and retiring. 26, Michael Brooks. Brooks had a pretty strange career. He started with the Clippers, averaging 15 points and 5.4 rebounds to earn votes for Rookie of the Year. During his 4 years with the Clips, he posted 13.7 points, 6.6 rebounds, and 2.7 assists, looking poised to have a long, solid career. Then, he got injured and missed 2 full seasons before getting back into the game, this time playing for the Pacers. He spent the 87 season barely playing in Indy and did the same in 88 with the Nuggets. Brooks then jumped to France, where he'd play for several seasons, winning the French League Foreign MVP in 91 and 92. 25. Jakob Poeltl. Poeltl started his career as a solid backup on a good Toronto squad, even gaining votes for Sixth Man of the Year in 2018. He was traded to the Spurs before the 2019 season in the deal that brought Kawhi Leonard to the Raptors. With San Antonio, Poeltl grew into a nightly double-double threat before being traded back to the Raps in 2023. He's having the best season of his life in 2025 with Toronto, averaging 15 points and 10.5 rebounds a night. He's 29 years old, so he probably won't unlock a new level to his game, but Poeltl has certainly become a quality starting big man. 24. Stacey Augmon. The Plastic Man had a great start to his career. During his 5 years in Atlanta, the 6'8" guard averaged 14 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 1.5 steals a night. However, his production took a drastic downswing when he was traded to Detroit in 97. Midway through that season, he was traded again, this time to the Trailblazers. He played there for 5 seasons, the same amount of time he'd spent in Atlanta. Unfortunately, he only averaged 2.6 points and 2.5 rebounds there, as he struggled to earn consistent playing time. That said, we have to reward Augmon for the quality start to his 15-year career and his consistently solid defensive play. 23. DJ Augustin. Augustine's career started well, with 12 points and 3.4 assists to make the All-Rookie squad. He played for 14 years and averaged 9.5 points and 3.9 assists. While never a star, he was a solid point guard throughout the 2010s, especially if you weren't a contender. Augustin has a handful of seasons where he averaged double-digit points and more than 5 assists. He even picked up votes for Sixth Man of the Year in 2014. Essentially, he's the perfect example of a journeyman point guard who can be a solid third or fourth option on your team. 22. Rony Seikaly. The Greek Peak had a solid rookie season with 11 points and 7 boards, but he improved those numbers to 17 and 10 to win Most Improved Player in 1990. He continued to play well during his 6 years in Miami, averaging a double-double and solidifying himself as a solid NBA big. In 94, he was traded to Golden State. His numbers took a slight hit as he endured a few injuries, and he was dealt again, this time to Orlando in 96. That season, he dropped 17.3 points, 9.5 boards, and 1.4 blocks, trying to fill the hole left by Shaq leaving. Syke spent 2 more seasons in the NBA, but was hampered by injuries. He spent the 2000 season playing for Barcelona in Spain before retiring. 21. Clarence Weatherspoon. Baby Barkley started his career on a tear. He dropped 15.6 points and 7.2 rebounds to make the All-Rookie team. He followed that up with 18.4 and 10 while adding more than a steal and block a game. Spoon looked poised to have a great career, but coach John Lucas moved him to small forward and then drafted Jerry Stackhouse. That left him in a strange spot, and his numbers slowly trickled down. He was eventually traded to Golden State and then signed with Miami. Spoon became a journeyman to end his career, playing for 3 different teams across his final 5 seasons. The undersized big has career averages of 11.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, and a steal and block a night. Not bad, but it definitely seemed like he might have had a chance to be a real star during his early days in Philly. 20. Rodney Rogers. Rogers didn't have the peak Weatherspoon had, but the explosive forward consistently dropped double-digit points across his 12-year career. His most successful stretch came in 2000 and 2001 with the Suns. Rogers won Sixth Man of the Year in 2000 behind 14 points and 5.5 boards a night. He continued to get votes for the award in 2001, but couldn't quite defend his title. Rogers hung him up after the 2005 season with career averages of 11 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 1 steal a night across 7 different teams. 19. Derrick McKey. McKey spent his first 6 years in Seattle. During that stretch, he averaged 14 points and 5 rebounds, while bringing solid wing defense alongside Xavier McDaniel and Nate McMillan. His scoring dropped off as the team added Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp, but he continued to be an imposing defender. However, it was when he was traded to Indiana for Detlef Schrempf that he unlocked his true potential as a lockdown defender. Heavy D picked up DPOY votes in 95 and made second team all-defense in 95 and 96. The 6'10 small forwards game slowly dropped off as he aged and dealt with injuries. He retired in 2002 with career averages of 11 points, 4.7 boards, and 1.1 steals per game. 18. Charles Oakley. I might be slightly undervaluing Oaktree with this ranking, but I'm glad he's at least in the top 20. The 6'9" forward made a career out of being a hard-nosed defender who wasn't afraid to fight anybody for any reason. That made him one of the best enforcers of his era, protecting stars like Michael Jordan. He was also a great rebounder, averaging 9.5 of them across his career. Oak made one All-Star team and picked up 2 All-Defensive teams. To put it mildly, he was far from a slouch on the court, despite being more known for throwing hands than anything else. Over his 19-year career, Oak played in nearly 1,300 games and was rumored to be considering a comeback in 2007 when he was 44 years old. Unfortunately, he quipped that his services, quote, wouldn't come back cheap, and we never got to see him make another run. 17. Gordon Hayward. Despite a relatively lackluster start to his career, Hayward became a double-digit scorer in year 2. Outside of the 2018 season, that he essentially missed entirely, Hayward continued to be a bucket getter while moving from Utah to Boston to Charlotte. His peak came in 2017, the year before he got his big injury, when he dropped 22 points and 5.4 rebounds to make his only All-Star team. After the injury, he played in more than 52 games only once, though he was still a solid scorer when healthy. Hayward retired after a disappointing 2024 season with the Thunder, when he didn't score a single point in the playoffs. That said, don't get it twisted. He averaged 15.2 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 3.5 assists across his 14-year career. 16. Otis Thorpe. Statistically, Hayward is slightly better than Thorpe. The 6'10" big averaged 14 points, 8.2 boards, and 2.2 assists during his 17-year career. Like Hayward, he also made one All-Star team. His came in '92 with the Rockets, when he dropped 17.3 points and 10.5 boards a night. However, the big separator between the two is that Thorpe averaged 14 points and 10.5 rebounds for a title-winning team in 1994. Obviously, Hakeem Olajuwon was the engine that made that team go, and it's worth noting that Thorpe's numbers went down slightly in the playoffs, but I still value Thorpe's contribution to the Rockets championship over Hayward's raw numbers. Plus, Thorpe averaged more than 10 rebounds a night in 5 seasons. That's more than enough to earn him this spot. 15. Andre Drummond. Look, I don't know if you'll find a bigger fan of the drum god than me outside of his family, so feel free to think that I'm too high on the big penguin. That said, the man has become one of the best rebounders in the modern NBA, leading the league in total rebounds for 4 different seasons. Add in 2 All-Stars, a 3rd-team All-NBA nod, several years with votes for DPOY, and you have a guy who deserves this spot. Just look at his stretch in Detroit. If you drop his rookie year, the guy is averaging over 15 points and 14 boards a night. That is astonishing. My man is nearly averaging as many offensive rebounds for his career as Eric Montross averaged total rebounds, and he's an inch shorter. 14. Joakim Noah. If you just look at the stats, Noah should probably be lower. However, we're talking about a guy who won a DPOY in 2014 while picking up a first-team All-NBA nod. In fact, he was so good that season that he finished in 4th in MVP voting. That's ahead of all-timers like James Harden, Steph Curry, and Chris Paul. Of course, he doesn't just get this high based on that one season alone. Noah was a DPOY vote getter from 2011 to 2015 and made 2 All-Star teams during that stretch. The big knock on Noah is that he did struggle to stay healthy, but the guy was a menace on the defensive side of the ball throughout most of his career. Though to be fair, I would also be remiss to not mention the deal that the Knicks signed him to in 2016. They gave him a 4-year deal for $72 million, and Noah played in just over 50 games in 2 years before they cut ties with him. Even still, you can't deny his impact during his heyday with the Bulls. 13. Dale Ellis. At the peak of his powers, Ellis was as good as nearly anybody on this list. His career started very slow, playing limited minutes for 3 seasons in Dallas. He was then traded to the Supersonics. The silent assassin exploded when inserted into the starting lineup, dropping 25 points a night to win the Most Improved Player award. The next season, Ellis dropped 26 points before his scoring reached its peak in '89 with 27.5 a night, and Ellis made the All-Star and 3rd-team All-NBA rosters. However, a few off-court incidents eventually led to Seattle trading him to Milwaukee in '91. There, he was back on the bench, but still contributing double-digit points. In fact, his scoring didn't fall below 10 a night until '99, when he was 38 years old. An impressive 17-year run, to be sure, but still a bit disappointing given his early years in Seattle. 12. Reggie Theus. Riverboat Reggie didn't have the peak Ellis had, but he was an incredibly consistent scorer. Outside of 1984, the season he was traded from Chicago to Kansas City, Theus never averaged below 16 points during his 13-year career. That includes a 16-point, 5-assist rookie season that saw him finish second in Rookie of the Year voting behind Phil Ford. His numbers peaked in '83 with 24 points and 6 assists a night. In addition to being a reliable scorer, Theus was a solid playmaker, averaging 6.3 assists for his career. Not a bad showing for Rush Street Reggie. I do have to note that he did most of his damage on teams that didn't make the playoffs, which keeps him from climbing any higher. 11. Kemba Walker. Walker also suffers from playing for teams that lost more games than they won. Outside of his 2020 run with Boston, Walker never made it past the first round of the playoffs. What he did do is average 19.3 points and 5.5 assists across his career. Those are great numbers, even if most of them came for bad Charlotte teams. Still, he made 4 All-Star teams and 1 All-NBA third team in 2019. That's far from terrible. It's just hard to rank him much higher, given everyone above him has had at least a few deep runs into the playoffs. Simply put, I have to weigh stats on contenders a bit higher than stats on also-ran teams, even if that hurts guys like Cardiac Kemba. 10. Rolando Blackman. Let's talk about the reason Dale Ellis couldn't get playing time on the Mavs. Blackman and Mark Aguirre were already holding down Ford at the guard spots, which kept Ellis on the bench and led to his trade. And while Ellis has the higher peak, Blackman's continued excellence has to be rewarded. He averaged 19 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists a night during his 11 years in Dallas. During that stretch, Blackman was named to 4 All-Star teams and led the Mavs on several deep playoff runs during the mid-'80s. They would ultimately be stymied by the Showtime Lakers every time and never got a chance to play for a title, but Blackman wasn't racking up those stats on a non-playoff team. His scoring did fall off at the end of his career when he went to the Knicks, but he was in his mid-30s by then, so it's not overly surprising. While he left the NBA in '94, Blackman played overseas through '97, winning the Italian Cup MVP and making the Greek All-Star team during that stretch. He technically has an Olympic gold medal as well, as he was selected for the 1980 team that boycotted the games, but was later given congressional gold medals. 9. DeMar DeRozan. If one thing is certain about DeRozan, the man can get a bucket. Over his career, he's averaging 21.2 points a night. Add in 4.4 boards, 4.1 assists, and 1 steal, and you have the makeup of a very good player. It's also not like he's been racking them up on exclusively bad teams. Sure, he couldn't take Toronto all the way to the promised land, but he did lead them to 3 straight runs to at least the second round. He may have inflated his stats on bad Chicago teams, but he also became one of the best clutch shooters in the league during that stretch, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's made 6 All-Star teams and 3 All-NBA teams while getting a smattering of votes for MVP in 2017, 2018, and 2022. It's hard to see him moving much higher without a title run, but he is averaging 21 points at 35 years old. That's nothing to sneeze at. 8. Andre Iguodala. Kinda like Noah, if you just look at Iggy's stats, 11.3 points, 4.9 rebounds, 4.2 assists, and 1.4 steals a night over 19 years, for the record, I might have him too high. Fortunately, Iggy's impact on the game goes much further than basic stats. Just go look at his basketball reference page. The man got votes for DPOY in 8 of his first 10 seasons in the league. After that, he became a 6th Man of the Year contender, becoming the glue for Golden State's first 3 title wins. The man even won Finals MVP in 2015, with Curry dropping nearly 30 points a night. And the Warriors didn't win their 4th title until a 38-year-old Iggy rejoined the team in 2022. Now, he wasn't a massive contributor to that team, but we shouldn't underestimate the man's good vibes. Despite only making 1 All-Star team, Iggy will go down as one of the ultimate team players, willing to sacrifice his stats to do whatever it takes to get a W. Will that be enough for him to make the Hall of Fame? The man himself doesn't think so, but If the fate of the universe is on the line,
I want Iguodala.
7. Shawn Marion. The Matrix might have one of the ugliest shots in NBA history, but it worked for him. The man averaged 15.2 points, 8.7 rebounds, and more than a steal and block a night over his 16-year career. That helped him earn 4 All-Star nods and 2 third-team All-NBA roster spots. During his time in Phoenix, he consistently got votes for Defensive Player of the Year, and even finished with a few MVP votes in 05 and 06. Not many votes, since his teammate Steve Nash won both of those MVPs, but still, he was incredible during those 2 seasons. With Marion, Nash, and Amar'e Stoudemire, the Suns were a consistent playoff team, making deep runs from 05 to 07. In 08, he was traded to the Heat for Shaquille O'Neal. He was briefly traded to the Raptors after the season, before quickly being traded to the Mavericks. There, he would continue to stuff box sheets and help Dirk Nowitzki win the 2011 title. He continued to play solid minutes over the next few years and signed with the Cavs in 2014. While he didn't play much there, that season the Matrix became the first player in NBA history with 15,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, 1,000 blocks, and 500 three-pointers. He retired after this season, and it'll be interesting to see if he ultimately makes the Hall of Fame. 6. Amar'e Stoudemire. Stat was instantly a star in the NBA, winning Rookie of the Year over great players like Yao Ming and Manu Ginobili. The next year, he averaged 21 points and 9 rebounds. He followed that up with 26 and 9 to make his first All-Star team and be named a second-team All-NBA player. He missed most of the next season, but came back to continue posting jaw-dropping stat lines and make first-team All-NBA and the All-Star team again. Over the next 4 years, Stat made 4 more All-Star teams and 3 more second-team All-NBA squads. So while some might have the Matrix and Iggy ranked higher because of their longevity, I'm going with Stoudemire's peak. Sure, he quickly started to pick up injuries after joining the Knicks in 2011, but before that, there weren't many better bigs in the NBA than Stoudemire. And even when he was limited, Stoudemire was still averaging double-digit points and around 6 rebounds a night. I also have to point out that when he left the NBA in 2016, Stoudemire beasted the Israeli League for several seasons, winning 2 titles and a Finals MVP in 2020 at around 38 years old. Not as impressive as what LeBron James is doing at that age, but as a fellow old man, I gotta give it up to Stat. And for what it's worth, he has this slight edge on nicknames over his former teammate. 5. JoJo White. We only have Hall of Famers left, folks, so things are going to get interesting. White was one of the engines behind the post-Bill Russell Celtics. He helped the team pick up 2 more championships in 74 and 75, while winning Finals MVP during the latter title run. The 6'3" point guard made 7 straight All-Star teams from 71 to 77, averaging over 18 points, 5 assists, and 1 steal per game. That included his peak season in 72, when he dropped 23 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 5.3 assists while playing 41 minutes a night. Tibbs would love this guy. White only made 2 All-NBA teams, both of them second, which hurts his standing slightly. However, I think the titles and Finals MVP is enough to get him over Stoudemire. The only thing keeping him from going higher is that he was usually the 3rd best player on most of those Celtics teams, while the guys we'll get to next were either the first or second options throughout their careers. 4. Mel Daniels. I'm sure my ABA fans are pulling their hair out at Daniels being at the 4th spot. The big man won 2 MVPs and 3 titles in the ABA after winning Rookie of the Year during his first season. During his first 5 years, Big D was averaging around 21 points and 16 rebounds. Those are incredible numbers that have to be recognized. He was also a 7-time ABA All-Star and was named to the All-ABA First Team 4 times. So why is he ranked 4th? Well, first of all, 2 of the other guys are easily top 75 players in NBA history, and the other I have just slightly higher than Daniels. Plus, it has to be said that Daniels probably doesn't win at least one of those MVPs if he's playing in the NBA. That isn't to diminish the league. I'm just saying that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a very good basketball player in 1971. Daniels dropping 21 points and 18 boards a night is nice, but 32 and 16 take the cake in my book. 3. Tracy McGrady. T-Mac got off to a slow start in Toronto, but grew into a 6th Man of the Year candidate in 2000, averaging 15 points and 6.3 rebounds a game. He signed with the Magic after the season and emerged as one of the best scorers in the league, averaging 27 points to make his first All-Star team, the second team All-NBA roster, and win the Most Improved Player award. McGrady kept up the scoring throughout his career in Orlando, peaking in 2003 with 32.1 points a night to lead the league in scoring. He dropped 28 a night the next season, again leading the league. During his 4 years with the Magic, T-Mac made 4 All-Star teams, 2 first-team All-NBA rosters, and 2 second-team All-NBA squads. He also finished in the top 6 of MVP voting 3 times. Unfortunately, the team struggled to win, as fellow All-Star Grant Hill was almost always hurt, holding back the team's potential. Ahead of the 2005 season, T-Mac was traded to Houston. Pairing with Yao Ming, McGrady kept scoring, averaging 23 a night over his 6 years with the team. He also made 4 more All-Star teams and 3 more All-NBA squads, while continuing to get votes for MVP. However, injuries to McGrady and Ming would continue to hold back his playoff potential. By 2010, an aging and hobbled McGrady was traded to the Knicks. He kept playing for 3 more seasons across 3 different teams, but kept getting hurt and left the NBA in 2012. He spent a season in China before joining the Spurs for the playoff run in 2013. However, he wasn't able to contribute much and retired after the season. McGrady never won a title and only made it out of the first round in 2013, but was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2017. I also have to point out that guys like Paul Pierce and Kobe Bryant called him the hardest player to guard at his peak, so take it from them if you're still doubting the placement. Number 2, John Havlicek. Let me tell you, this is by far the hardest choice I had to make on this list. I'll go ahead and get it out of the way. I have Dirk Nowitzki just ahead of Hondo. While recording this, I still don't know if that's the right decision. Look at Hondo's tail of the tape. 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists a night. The NBA didn't track steals until his last 5 seasons, but even in his mid-30s, Hondo was getting more than a steal a night. He is a 13-time All-Star, an 11-time All-NBA choice with 4 first-team selections. He also made 8 All-Defensive teams, won 8 championships, and 1 Finals MVP. Those Boston teams might have been loaded, but Hondo was the first or second leading scorer for all but one of those teams. We're not talking about a contributor on a dynasty. We're talking about one of the 25 best players in NBA history. He also might be the best 6th man in NBA history. Don't get me wrong, he played a ton of minutes. Again, Tibbs would love this guy, but he did come off the bench for Boston for many years. The award is now named after him, for goodness sake. And for what it's worth, he was a great investor after retiring, getting in on Wendy's early, and never working a normal job again, despite NBA salaries not being anywhere close to what they are today. I know that doesn't count for anything, but it's just a fun fact that lets me waste more time before I say he's still only the 2nd best 9th overall pick in NBA history. Number 1, Dirk Nowitzki. Bucks fans, please don't pay attention to that graphic revealing that you helped facilitate the trade that brought Dirk and Steve Nash to Dallas in '98 for Robert Tractor Trailer. You couldn't have known that the Mavs were getting the best foreign-born player in the NBA to that point. But that's enough torturing Bucks fans. Let's talk about Dirk's career. He got off to a slow start as a rookie, but was dropping 17.5 points a night in year 2. The next season, he upped that to 22 points and 9.2 rebounds to make 3rd team All-NBA. Dirk wouldn't average fewer than 21 points for the next 11 seasons. During that stretch, he won the 2007 MVP, made 11 All-Star teams, 4 first-team All-NBA squads, and got 11 total All-NBA nods to bring his career total to 12 All-NBA teams. He also finished with MVP votes in every season, and might have a legitimate gripe that he should have won at least one of Steve Nash's MVPs. Oh, and on top of all that, Dallas made several deep runs into the playoffs, finally winning in 2011. As you'd expect, Dirk picked up a Finals MVP for leading Dallas over the star-studded Heatles. After the 2013 season, he did start dealing with a few injuries, but he still made 3 more All-Star teams. Of course, the 2019 All-Star nod is highly questionable, as the 40-year-old Dirk was averaging 7 points that season. Let's just call it a Lifetime Achievement Award. Dirk retired after that season with 3,560 points and 11,489 rebounds. He was a major cog in helping kickstart the European Revolution that eventually brought in guys like Giannis and Jokic, and is one of the best shooting bigs in the history of the game. As of 2025, he's 6th all-time in points scored and 27th in rebounds. Dirk spent his entire career in Dallas, breaking Kobe Bryant's record for most seasons with one team at 21. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2023, and for my money, is the best 9th pick in NBA history.